You're listening to DraftKings Network.
Hi, I'm Ben Stiller from the Academy Awards snub movie Dodgeball. You know, this election is a lot like Dodgeball. Kamala Harris is the average Joe underdog, and no, this isn't a time for jokes. You know what? It's way too important. Donald Trump wants to terminate the Constitution. Project 2025 will give him nearly unlimited power. We can't let him get anywhere near the White House. So, vote for Kamala Harris. Yeah, see, that was better. The serious version was much better, right?
Paid for by Harris for President.
Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. If you're a smoker or dipper looking to make a change, you really only need one reason to do it. But with Zyn nicotine pouches, you can find many. Zyn is America's #1 nicotine pouch. It's made with only 6 simple ingredients. There are lots of options when it comes to nicotine satisfaction, but there's only one Zyn. Learn more about Zyn and find your reason to make a change by registering online at Zyn.com.
Shadow Show.
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 Shadow in it.
Greg Cody is upset that he's not here today. He wanted to be here today, and evidently, for reasons I don't totally understand, he's not here today and blaming us.
He should be upset. It's his day. Why is he blaming me? He should blame you.
Well, I think he's blaming everybody. He's blaming the show in general. He wanted to be here for some reason when Tim Walz joins us. And I haven't seen all of the commentary on us announcing that Tim Walz is going to join us at 10:30, but I've asked them to print out a handful of comments. Have you guys seen anything? Because I imagine it's very negative. Anything that gets thrown as chum in the water, I just imagine us announcing that we're talking to a politician is going to be met very poorly.
I haven't seen it because I'm actively trying to stay away from it, so I'll step out.
Somebody writes in, yuck, unsubscribe. I feared Batard would ruin this show for me someday. I wonder what down-the-middle Chris Cody thinks about all this.
I was just going to say, there have to be some down-the-middle people out there that are just pretty even-keeled about it.
I do find it pretty interesting that this is the bridge too far. Hey, I've rocked with you for all these years throughout the pirate ship and everything like that, but I'm beginning to see the seeds of your political leanings.
Was Greg told he couldn't come in for it? Like, what's he mad about?
We don't trust Greg?
We moved him as just today's a busy day, hectic day. We'll talk to you on Wednesday kind of thing.
Wow. Insulting.
I'd sit out if I was
journalist.
Many people are writing in. The theme that seems to be most prevalent is some form of, I'll be here just to see how Dan can make this as awkward as possible. Everyone is predicting awkward. What Big Papa writes in, what's the over-under time on Dan making the interview awkward? Chief Sakif writes, Dan's going to ask the most awkward questions of all time to stop the interview in its tracks, and Stu is going to follow up with a top 5 list of athlete names that connote governorship.
Oh, I like that.
I think that's a little hard. I don't think you're going to be able to come up with 5 of them there.
Ron Washington.
I mean,
come on.
Somebody
What
writes,
is that list? A governor?
Yeah.
Washington, a governor?
Yeah, that's, it's a stretch. He felt pretty good about, he wanted to counter. I said top 5 governors is going to be hard, and he came up with Ron Washington and was proud of himself. Everybody kind of winced. Somebody writes in, bleep you and your show. Just a real clean anger that you have toward the show. Are we looking forward to this? Lucy, you don't look like you're looking forward to this.
No, I'm looking forward to it. I just don't understand after 20 years why you still read the comments. I feel like you should know better by now.
Lucy,
such a great point.
I had them collected for me for content purposes.
I don't know if it's fun content to read about how everybody doesn't like us.
Mean tweets? You don't think mean tweets are fun content? They've been fun content since Twitter started.
I don't know about that.
Okay.
I would prefer if everyone always only told me how pretty and smart and funny I am.
Lucy, you're so pretty and smart and funny.
Oh my God, thank you. Did someone tweet us that?
No.
Oh, okay.
There's got to be some nice comments out there. Good job by you guys having him on.
Nope.
Look how big this show has gotten. You have a person running for vice president coming on. That's what they should be
I told
saying.
my wife last night. She's like, cool.
Yeah,
I can't believe no one's in costume today, too.
That's a bummer.
Crazy
I thought about
you
that on the
didn't,
way in.
Plan that out
I thought
ahead of
about
time.
that's terrible work by me. That's just terrible. I can't believe nobody had a costume today.
I wore long pants because of it.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz podcast.
Today's episode is sponsored by DraftKings. Stay tuned because you'll hear more about DraftKings and all it has to offer throughout the show. DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Stugotz, at the risk of really upsetting the audience, we could start with the Florida Panthers winning 5 straight on the road.
Yes.
On the road.
What against the Rangers, yeah.
The defending Stanley Cup champions going on the road and just dragging everybody. I've got a couple of things that I want to get to, including a beaming and radiant Jessica, who, again, fell asleep on a late Monday night just listening to Steeler press conferences, just delighted with the glow of her telephone on her face because the Steelers have some offense now, and they can be dangerous if they have some offense.
Dan, I had to stay up late and hear what Mike Tomlin said about the challenge flag that he threw on the George Pickens touchdown, which should have counted because he got 2 feet in bounds. Well, the same foot twice, I guess you could say. And then replay assist was like, nope, not a touchdown. You have to get 2 separate feet in bounds for it to count. And Tomlin threw his challenge flag, and then Steelers were not able to challenge it, so they got a timeout taken away. And in my head, like, Tomlin historically awful at challenging. Like, his challenge record is terrible. In my head, I'm like, oh God, here we go again. Why are we challenging this? They already ruled that it wasn't a touchdown. In the press conference, he said he didn't know replay assist had already ruled it a touchdown, and that's why he threw the challenge flag. And if he knew that replay assist had already reviewed it, he wouldn't have thrown the challenge flag. So the Steelers just get a timeout taken away on this inexplicably because I guess the communication wasn't great with the sideline, and that's a huge bummer. It ended up not mattering. Steelers won by 8. Daniel Jones had a chance to take the Giants down the field inside 5 minutes. Best defensive player in the league, TJ Watt, one-on-one with the Giants tackle, makes a move, strip sack, fumble recovery. Steelers get the ball. Giants get the ball back.
You're breathless, Jessica. I need you to slow down. It's aggressive.
It's
cafecito, and it's a lot.
Almost done. The Steelers end the game with an interception from Beanie Bishop, his third in 2 weeks, third against the New York sports teams. Game over.
So I don't blame you for not naming the tackle. I think his name is Illuminor. Jermaine Illuminor said before the game that he wanted TJ Watt man-to-man. He didn't want any help, and then he allows 3 sacks and a forced fumble, and JJ Watt is making fun of him on Twitter for wanting TJ Watt one-on-one. But I think that there should be a new rule that if you do get 1 foot in twice, it should count as 2 feet. I haven't seen a whole lot of
it. The play made no sense. The way George Pickens flew from essentially the middle of the end zone in terms of depth out of the back of the end zone without his second foot going down was crazy. He was just shoved and went flying out of bounds.
I think it's more difficult to get the same foot in twice. It should count as more.
But being able to push a receiver out of bounds has been allowed for close to 20 years now, and it's part of the game. I would say let's not change the rules just because George Pickens found the one loophole to put the 1 foot down twice. How about George Pickens find a way to put that second foot down and we don't have an issue?
It wasn't that he was pushed, it was that he was being lifted, which I think is falls in the same category. But it was really confusing. Like Billy said, he caught it 6 yards into the end zone, had 2 feet clearly down. How are we counting one ass cheek or one knee as 2 feet, but 2 feet from the same leg don't count as 2 separate feet?
But then what do you do with a toe drag? What if one foot just drags 5 feet across?
Nope. It's got to.
No,
it's got
no. 5 foot.
It didn't come off the ground.
No.
But if it's just 1 foot that's tapping down,
foot drag is not the same thing.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
If it drags and then it comes up and then drags again, and you get 2 separate puffs of the black little pebbles coming up.
2 drags.
That's 2 drags.
Yeah,
that's what I was worried about.
That's
love
2 drags.
If the Steelers do it, it should count as a touchdown, okay? Because
like that
first
rule.
half was just field goal. We had 3 touchdowns taken back. It was a great catch by Pickens. That spiritually should count as a catch. And we need to have a rule in the NFL where spiritually something is a catch.
Okay, I don't think of football.
There's priests on the sideline sometimes. Why don't we have spiritual plays? I don't
There was
get
an
it.
immaculate reception once.
That's true. Thank you, Mike.
Yep.
I want
Greg's right.
to
Pap was there.
address why Greg Cody is not here and why Greg Cody is mad at us. But I do wonder, Stugotz, because we lived this in South Florida. The fan base became so spoiled by Don Shula that what I remember of the Jimmy Johnson and Dave Wannstedt days that had a lot of 10-6s and 11-5s in them, one playoff victory in Seattle when Jimmy Johnson would win a playoff game here and there. What I remember after Shula is that the fan base had grown so spoiled with Dolphin winning that they assigned to those coaches mediocrity as a label for going 11-5 and 10-6. The reason I bring this up as it relates to the Steelers and Tomlin, I think the national perception on the Steelers is they're above average always. You don't want to play them, but there's no chance they win the title. And I wonder if Steeler fans land on Tomlin and say, I'm tired of being quote-unquote mediocre, even though it's not actually mediocre. Last year, it kind of was. I think they were 9-8, and they sort of stumble into the playoffs. And then when they get to the playoffs, you don't fear them at all. But if I give them just a little bit of offense, they end up becoming what I thought the Jets were going to be this year, with a little bit of offense, with a quarterback like Russell Wilson, he's an upgrade. And Mike Tomlin actually did what very few coaches do, where he sits the quarterback who's doing a little bit of winning because he wants more winning than that.
It's interesting because are you okay with the stability of having Mike Tomlin there, always having a winning season, getting to the playoffs, getting knocked out in the first round? Chris Sims tells me and Billy all the time that he doesn't want the Steelers in his playoffs because they get blown out first round, it's over. And Tomlin is 8-10 in the postseason. So I do wonder if Steeler fans are okay with having a guy like Tomlin who's good enough to get you to the playoffs, but doesn't appear good enough to get you to the Super Bowl on a consistent basis.
Well, he did win a Super Bowl, and they were at a Super Bowl that they lost. But, Jessica, what is the feeling of Tomlin? They've only had 3 coaches ever in Steelers history, and I do wonder. I know I saw in Miami people get tired of Jimmy Johnson and Wannstedt for not being Shula, and I do wonder if getting to the playoffs every year but not having a real chance is something that Steeler fans think of as beneath them.
I don't think Steelers fans this year, it's early in the season, I don't think they have no chance. I think that the last 2 weeks have shown you that the Steelers finally have a good passer in Russell Wilson. The play-action pass game hasn't looked as good since Ben Roethlisberger before he blew out his elbow. But I would say that, no, I think there's definitely mixed feelings about Tomlin. I think most fans really love him, and he's been a great head coach. And the biggest issue with the Steelers has been managing the offense after their 19-year franchise quarterback player got injured, was not as good, retired, and then they drafted Kenny Pickett in the first round, and that didn't work out. So, the quarterback issue has been the problem. The offense has been the problem. I think the defense has been really good. They've had Hall of Famers on this defense his entire time in Pittsburgh. And so, the playoff record stinks. I don't think anyone's happy with that. I don't think a single Steelers fan's we're content losing in the wild card round to the Browns or to the Bills or the Chiefs. But I think that, hiring Arthur Smith, getting a quarterback in there that can actually open up the vertical pass game has been a good sign that the Steelers are willing to make necessary changes to actually be competitive down the stretch.
Because sports fans don't like the aesthetics of how they perform. They've just written them off and say they don't have a chance. But the Pittsburgh Steelers are elite at forcing the other team to play the style of game they want. You highlighted some of those teams, Bills, Chiefs. In the playoffs, those are difficult games. If one or two things goes differently in the Bills game, maybe they hang tight there. I think they're elite at getting the other team to get sucked into the style that they're most suitable to win at. So I'm not one of these people that don't think that the Pittsburgh Steelers have a chance in that conference. I really don't, especially given what we've seen from the Kansas City Chiefs and that offense, even though they're undefeated, showing that it has a little bit more limitations than previous. I like the Steelers in a matchup to at least cover a number and make that game close.
Also, really, really tough division. A division that Tomlin's won many, many times, and even in the last 10 years with 2020 being a really weird season. The Steelers have to play the Ravens twice every year. They have to play Joe Burrow twice every year. They have to play the Browns, which were better when they had Baker Mayfield, and they lost that playoff game, obviously, which I think was a real sort of turning point for Steelers fans, you can't lose to the Browns in the playoffs. But it's a tough division, and I think like their defense has been really, really good, and a lot of people want to see touchdowns and high-flying offense, and like Mike said, that's not really the game the Steelers are trying to play right now, but this season has looked a lot better in that regard.
I'm just shocked that you said a couple minutes ago that there's mixed feelings on Tomlin. I know of his playoff struggles, but I've just thought of him as one of the most beloved coaches in all of football. That's crazy.
He hasn't won a playoff game since 2016.
Yeah, but he had some bad offenses.
I know, but we're raving about Russell Wilson. He did it against the Giants and the Jets.
Most coaches that go 8 years without winning a playoff game don't get to keep their jobs, period. Like McDaniel won't. McDaniel will not keep his job if he goes 8 years without winning a playoff game. Like that is a tribute to how the Pittsburgh Steelers do business, that they believe in stability and they believe in leadership that is consistent. It's an unusual philosophy in sports.
I said mixed feelings, but I think most fans do really like Tomlin. So, like, yes, there is doubt about the playoff record. There is doubt about, like, why didn't we fire Matt Canada sooner? Steelers, what are we doing with that? But I think fans are feeling a lot better about the new GM. He's made some great moves, and I think that, like, overall, Tomlin is pretty well liked.
We're doing a great job of getting the state of Pennsylvania in the tent. Keep it up.
Yes, that's all we're trying to do.
You're not fooling me, Dan.
Let's cover only sports in the swing states.
Tomlin talk today, huh? Stugotz here. Having a quality home security system in your home is so important. You want to have peace of mind when you're away, and of course you want to protect your family and your valuables. That's why I've had Simply Safe in my home for 7 years now. I swear by him. I want you to have the same peace of mind I and so many listeners experience every day, which is why I partnered with Simply Safe to offer Batard Show listeners 50% off a new system. Visit simplysafe.com/DLB. Old school security systems only act once someone is already inside your home. Simply Safe is changing that with its new Active Guard outside protection, which prevents crime before it happens. With Active Guard, live monitoring agents keep watch outside your home. If anyone is loitering or behaving suspiciously, the live guards can see them, speak to them, activate loud sirens and spotlights to scare them off, and even request urgent police dispatch, all before they even have the chance to kick in a door or window. Right now, all Batard listeners will get 50% off any new Simply Safe system. Visit simplysafe.com/DLB to claim this offer. It's only for a limited time, so be sure to order today. That's simplysafe.com/DLB. There's no safe like Simply Safe.
Dan Le Batard.
While I was gone, a third Zagacki was born, and I think I heard, correct me if I'm wrong here, Jeremy trying to partake in a fourth Zagacki, and I am here for a future where I am surrounded by a chorus of clucking Zagackis.
Stugotz.
You know what it means when you have 4 Zagackis, Dan. You don't have one.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz.
Let's get also to this Greg Cody video. Chris, what can you tell me? You are back from doing debaucherous things in Key West. You apologize to the audience and to South Florida for our show's role in injuring all of the Dolphins. All of the Dolphins that we interviewed before the season got hurt before the halfway point of the season. Zach Sealer, who hadn't missed a game in a couple of years, got hurt in practice with a fractured orbital bone. Out of nowhere, he was the last one to get knocked out in terms of our haunted interviews.
That's crazy that happened in practice because, like, the week before this one, his helmet came off during a play and a fumble he recovered, I believe, and he was tackled without a helmet on, and he didn't fracture his orbital bone then, but in practice it happened somehow.
I've had, like, a roller coaster of emotions with this injury. When I first heard it, I'm like, oh, come on, you got to play. Poked in the eye, not a big deal. The more I really think about it, that sounds really painful. So the roller coaster's now back to me respecting
the injury.
That's nice
of you, yeah.
You're of the belief that if 300-pound Zach Sealer, who's a professional football player and hasn't missed a game in 2 years, misses a game with an eye poke, that he's being soft?
I'm just saying, I've gotten poked in the eye before. I missed 5 minutes of TV.
Right, but the roller coaster.
I mean, you guys should not be allowed to interview Dolphins players next year.
That's
anyone, really.
Who did
That's
you interview from the Heat? Like, that's also something to keep an eye on.
Well,
this is
you know what's a
situation.
good thing to keep an eye on? When that ever runs, because everybody interviewed a bunch of people at the Heat, and I still haven't seen any of that video.
That's why we're not airing it. We don't want Bam to get hurt. It's actually a heady play by us.
Yeah.
The haunting. You're afraid that the curse is such that we
Jaime Jaquez, like key players. Okay.
And we never ran any of it. Out
of safety.
I haven't seen any of it. It's because our show is haunted. Thank you, Chris, for looking out for the local teams of all kinds. I am now told by video that we do not have the Greg Cody video where he complains about why he's not on the show today.
It's a slow burn. We'll have it in a minute.
This is good. This is good. Before we have on the vice presidential candidate, it's good to have a bunch of technical issues. Yeah, no, I'm not sure about that is the short answer.
So Greg we did Greg dirty because I did a little digging. His book comes out today. So on the day of the release of his book, we told him don't come in to promote the release of your book.
I need to get more information on this. Let's go to the video now of Greg Cody where he is promoting his own book, which is out today. So you can now get Back in My Day. He does more Back in My Days for profit over there than he does paid here to do Back in My Days. It's
bring him in on a Tuesday. I mean,
it is
crying out loud.
Strange that Greg Cody on the side creates another profit pattern for himself, doing the thing that he refuses to do here. When's the last time he did a Back in My Day here, a fresh Back in My Day? Has it been?
The recent fresh ones have been from the book.
Yeah.
So it's like an actual fresh one.
Right.
It's been a while.
Let's play this video of Greg Cody complaining about not being in today. He will be in tomorrow.
Couple seconds of dead air.
Just coughing in the background. This is all he wanted to do today.
Longest slow build ever. Here we go. All right, here.
Hello, everyone.
Greg.
I'm up.
Greg, I told you I couldn't see your face. Was it so hard?
Okay. Hey, everybody. You know what day it is? It's Back in My Day. It's Tuesday, October 29th. Drop date for the Back in My Day book. It's out today. You can hold it in your hands. You don't have to pre-order it like you have, and thanks to those who have, you can order it today and hold it in your hands. Go to Amazon, go to your local bookstore, whatever you have to do, it's out today. I was hoping, it's Tuesday, right? I was hoping to be on the Batard show to be able to promote the book, but I couldn't because they had an excuse why I couldn't be on Tuesday. I had to be on Wednesday. Cockamamie excuse. They had Tim Walz on, the vice presidential candidate, okay? Not even a presidential candidate, but they bumped me, okay? Okay, they bumped me. So we're doing the best we can. We're recording our own professionally directed video here because what day is it? It's Back in My Day. That kind of thing.
Was that Jumpin' Charlie clackety-clacking on the
classic
floor?
Charlie, yeah.
Put it on the poll at Batard Show. Over under on the age of a person who uses the word cockamamie. 100 over or under. That was a very slow video
for the people,
from Greg Cody.
For the audio people, you got to watch it because the lighting couldn't be worse. It's
jaundiced.
It's a delight to look at.
The video is jaundiced.
Not Greg, the video.
No,
right,
all of it.
yes,
Everything in the video, including the book. The book is the color of unbrushed teeth. Lucy, I don't believe that you and Jessica were here last week because for as much as we make fun of Greg Cody, Chris Cody hasn't fallen that far from the rotten tree. And now that he's back after 5 days of doing God knows what in Key West, I don't believe that he, Lucy, or Jessica are aware of the I-Team investigation that our show did that shames Chris Cody. Do you know anything about this, Lucy?
No, I do not. I don't live here, so I definitely wasn't here last week. So.
Okay, I don't know if Chris knows either, but please put a close-up on his face right now so that we can see the twitching begin. Jessica, you and I were talking just before the show, and you were saying that you often use that staircase that is in a new building that is a secret route where we thought we're the only ones who go and use that staircase, that there's no one else using it.
I thought so until a few months ago, this like venti Starbucks cup showed up, and I've just been monitoring the progression of it getting more and more disgusting and moldy over the last few months. But you're right, Dan. I don't know anything about this. By I-Team, do you mean Magnum PI?
I do not mean, I mean Columbo. Columbo leads our investigative effort. Chris, you're a litterer. We have found an
People were tweeting me that all weekend, and I was just like, who saw
That's
me litter
your
in the
cup?
keys? Well, that is...
Wait, in the keys?
No, I didn't litter in the keys. I was just like thinking, did I? Because I was like, why am I getting a random tweet?
No, Chris, that's disgusting.
First of all, that's inside. That's not littering.
So it doesn't count.
Yeah,
littering
not littering.
inside doesn't
Has to be
count.
outside to be
You just
littering.
throw garbage anywhere inside. It doesn't.
No, first of
not
all,
littering.
that actually, the story behind that was one day I was leaving and it was pouring. And I was like, okay, I don't want, like, I have a cup. So I put the cup down. And then a couple days later, I saw it started, like, growing something in it. And I was like, let's see where this goes. So now I'm just going to leave it here. And
You were doing a science experiment
I was like,
inside
oh my,
the stairwell
I was
at
like,
our workplace?
I was like staring at it. I was like, is that dirt? I'm like, oh, there's mold.
There was mold on a different cup. This isn't the cup that's got mold on it. I don't understand
Yeah, that one had
using the
mold.
staircase as a garbage
Well, there's no
can.
garbage down there. And it was raining.
And it's inside.
That's not littering.
What does the rain have
Let's
to
look
do
what's
with
the
it?
definition.
He is right about littering. You have to do it outside.
But it was there
Yes.
for several days,
Yeah.
days that it wasn't raining, but you refused to throw it away because you realized that there was mold growing
Yeah, I was like,
inside of
let's-
it. And then science was your higher
let's see
calling.
where it goes.
Let's see where this takes
Who
us.
did you think was going to clean up after you?
I imagine somebody would clean that stairwell at some point.
Mean.
That staircase is disgusting.
Very dusty.
It's new.
Yeah.
We can't make that a littering mess, but I do want to talk about the general rules that are being applied here. Put it on the poll, please, Juju, at Batard Show. Can you litter indoors? Because
You can't do it, man. I just did an image search on Google, and every single picture is people
An
littering
image
outside.
search?
Yeah, it's outside.
What'd you
It's an
image?
outdoor activity. I
People
mean,
littering.
yeah.
I wish Greg was here because I would like to ask Chris who raised you and then
My
interrogate
dad
Greg
is
about this.
Very like I grew up. I don't litter like outside. I
Right.
don't.
Then you don't litter.
I have
right,
not thrown something outside my window probably since I was like 16.
Good boy.
And it was an egg.
Chris,
Ooh,
Thi-
nice.
I'm not even kidding. Like I didn't know
dog?
anything about this one. I didn't know that was your Starbucks cup when I came in. That was purely chance. Because this thing, it's been so disgusting that I've started using a different stairwell and taking the long way out of the building because it's so gross.
I use that stairwell every day now to check up on it and see how's it going. So you guys moved it, so now it's gone.
somebody kicked it over and then it made a
Well,
spilled
that's-
mess, and
that's
it was
huge.
even more disgusting.
Who would do that?
Yes.
Who would kick that
well,
over?
I'm mortified
Danny B.
by all of it. I think you guys are more feral than Wolverines. I think it doesn't make any sense to me that you guys would take a new staircase and fill it with garbage.
I'm looking at a definition here of litter. Trash, such as paper, cans, bottles, that is left lying in an open or public place.
Okay, go sit in the penalty
The
box
act
here.
of dropping trash on the ground in a public place.
A public stairwell.
For ruining comedy.
I think Tony's better already.
You've been off for 5 days.
To be determined.
And you
Dan
come
is
back
bad.
and you get back on the treadmill and you can't speak and you litter and you do science experiments in the disgusting
It's not
stairwell.
litter. I just read the
All right,
definition.
It's a
get out of
public
here.
space. It's a public stairwell.
Places.
That's a
It's
public
places.
space, Billy.
Yeah.
You know what?
That stairwell's
The
public.
public never gathers in that staircase.
This is a
I'm with
private
Chris.
building.
Yeah,
You know
for
what?
2 minutes. Yeah.
Fine. Semantics. You're not a litterer. You're just an unbearable slob. Whatever. Get out.
There.
In Chris's defense, I walked down that stairwell after the fact because that day we had a lot of people complaining, saying there's a lot of trash in that stairwell. It's not just that, which I guess someone has done video of all the trash that's in the stairwell, and now you're seeing all of the different things. So when you go out the door, exactly, there's a corner where people
Come
have just
on, man.
stacked
Come
cups,
on, man.
which are very clearly from this office as well.
That's really bad. The Elser treats us so well. This is a great new building. Why are we doing this?
It's hard to fathom that these are all things that are free because we've got an eating area where all the food is free, and the result is people just gorge the food and then dump the junk wherever it is that they want to that isn't a trash can. It's only us. Like this cannot be anyone else because it's a private stairwell. Like it's only us using that. I can't believe we're this disgusting as a show.
I am speechless right now. I should have expected that it was us, but I'm still shocked. I'm sad. Yeah. I'm disappointed. What should we do to Chris?
I've got
punished.
I've got an idea.
For what?
I think he should do a show where he has to spend the whole show picking up trash on the beach and do phone-ins from the beach. And we should put him in like an orange jumpsuit or something so that we make him a criminal. Like we make him a slob criminal and we punish and shame him publicly.
He didn't drop anything on the beach. He dropped it in a stairwell.
Understood, but the punishment would be to clean up the beach a little bit.
You should also clean up the stairwell and also fix the light bulb that's been flickering down there for the last few months.
And there's a light bulb that's been flickering in my house too. If we're on the subject, maybe
okay,
he can go fix.
This is not going to make him your handyman.
He should clean up the trash in all of our like private homes.
Yeah, he should cut my lawn.
Because he didn't litter in public, but he did leave trash in private.
That light feels like something out of a horror movie. The flickering light in the stairwell. It feels a bit haunted.
There's a worse one. There's another stairwell that it's a lot darker and has a flickering light, which is the only source of light. At least this one's flickering, but there's other sources of light. That one, that's the only source of light. And sometimes weird music is playing.
Where
in
is
the stairwell. I don't know where it's coming from, whether it's above us or below us, but weird music is playing as the lights are flickering. And I said, you know what? This stairwell, not for me. Stop taking it.
Yeah. I've heard that music too. I'm pretty sure it's a 10-year-old girl singing who died in 1798. It's really
or tinnitus.
It's really haunting. Lucy, how do you feel learning this about your colleagues? Like, I think there are times that you learn things about people and certain defining facts where you're like, think slightly less of you than I did before.
Why do you think I left?
Because Chris is a litterer who's not a litterer, who's just a slob.
By the way, I saw like they showed the shot of that stairwell. There's a lot of shit from this office that's down there that isn't me.
I believe it is you, though. There's one with your name on it.
Well, that's not fair.
So you think I'm willing to be like, this one cup is me, but not like, why would, like, you think this is shameful for me?
Well, the one cup that is you has your name on it. It'd be hard to deny.
This is child's play of shame. Like when you guys first were like, Chris is zoom in on, I was like, oh my God,
right.
What do they know?
This is nothing.
After the weekend I've had, I was like, what do they know? And this is what you guys have for me? I'm laughing. I'm cackling.
I agree with Chris there. I do believe that there's more than one person leaving trash in the
I don't use
this
like,
office.
those brown cups I use here for water. I never have exited these places with those brown cups.
There was a Dunkin' Donuts cup that had green mold on the corner that people thought was either you or your dad.
It could be my dad.
I mean, what Chris is saying is you brought a knife to a gunfight. I mean.
Well, only because the person I'm fighting against can't be killed because they have no actual shame. Like what I'm describing here is a level of carelessness and inconsideration for others that would cause the median human being shame.
But it's also kind of like the Zodiac killer killed someone, and then there's a bunch of bodies around the one that Zodiac killer very clearly killed, and then the Zodiac killer's like, what, me? Why would you think I had anything to do with the other murders?
There's only one with your name on it. Like we can't put name on the Oreo cookies wrapper. I think they're all you. I don't believe that we have a slew of people here who are that kind of gross.
I mean,
we have some pretty gross people here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, maybe some pretty gross people, but not a slew of them. I do believe we have plenty.
I think we have a slew.
Okay, you guys disagree with me.
Sink after a lunch around here, Dan?
Yeah. They don't know how to clean up after themselves. It's one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. It is like something that is between toddlers and sort of feral ferrets.
Why the rain? Why did the rain inspire you to leave the cup?
Because there was a little liquid left in it. I don't want liquid getting in it. I was just done with it.
Oh my God.
Still no clarity on the rain.
For me.
No, yeah. I mean, it's raining. It's pouring out. It didn't give off walking around with a cup.
Chris, if you're going to own it, just own it. You left the cup there.
No,
it's okay. I'm with you.
It was raining that day,
I'm with you.
It's not a lie.
Okay.
That is what happened.
But you didn't leave the cup there because of the rain. You just left the cup there because you left the cup there.
I've walked out with cups many a times, and I either bring it in my car or throw it away. I put it down because it was pouring.
Okay.
That is why I did it.
Why wouldn't you just turn around and throw it away in the office?
There's no garbage. That's a lot of stairs.
We have garbage here.
No, I'm saying that's
We
like
have
a floor and a half.
He has to walk back up.
A floor and a half?
That's a lot.
I mean, that's a lot.
Up's a lot harder than down.
It is.
Yeah.
A floor and a half is a lot of stairs.
Now people know we work on the first and a half floor.
Man, this is not like You guys, this isn't doing anything right now for me.
Right.
Like this,
You're not even sweating, right?
You guys are everyone like Dan's just like I can't believe it's just like
The audience is mortified by you.
Like 3 people tweeted, "Hey, go
now everyone knows, and I'm telling them, bury Chris Cody.
Hi, I'm Ben Stiller from the Academy Awards snub movie Dodgeball. You know, this election is a lot like Dodgeball. Kamala Harris is the average Joe underdog, and no, this isn't a time for jokes. You know what? It's way too important. Donald Trump wants to terminate the Constitution. Project 2025 will give him nearly unlimited power. We can't let him get anywhere near the White House. So, vote for Kamala Harris. Yeah, see, that was better. The serious version was much better, right?
Paid for by Harris for President.
You know when you reach that age where everyone and their mother won't shut up about their credit scores, yet it seems like no one really understands what's so special about those 3 random numbers? That's because credit scores are meaningless, unless you have Credit Karma to show you how to use them. We use those 3 random numbers, plus your financial profile, to help you find your next opportunity. Like a more rewarding credit card, a game plan that helps you pay down debt faster, or a personal loan to help you save more on interest payments each month. Cha-ching! Download Intuit Credit Karma today to get started.
Don Le Batard.
I don't like Smetty either.
Stugotz.
Women stay home in the kitchen where they belong.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz.
Stugotz, do you know anything about the Kill Tony podcast? Do you know the name Tony Hinchcliffe for any reason whatsoever?
I do not.
Okay, so there are a group of comedians. It's a rather large group that have been knighted by Joe Rogan and Cat Williams and others. Object to the level of fame and power that they have gotten because many people believe in the world of comedians that they have not earned through funny the top of the court jester rankings. Cat Williams is one of the few willing to actually put his name on it. Everyone else is kind of afraid of doing this to them because it's a powerful group of people, and Joe Rogan has assembled a monster power to basically become what Johnny Carson used to be on late night television. So very few people end up being critical of some of the stuff that's happening, even as it arrives at what felt like a modern day version of a Nazi rally at Madison Square Garden that Trump's entire crew now doesn't know whether to double down or totally back away from because it was racist. And at the center of the racism was Tony Hinchcliffe trying to do a comedic set when surrounded by something that is otherwise pretty hateful. And even RFK is walking away from that saying, wow, that was unfortunate doing that joke at Puerto Rico's expense. And Mike Ryan pointed out yesterday that many of these guys are opportunists and profiteers. There's a lane for Andrew Schultz. I remember when we started during the pandemic, Andrew Schultz was trying to reach out to figure out how to do some of the stuff he has now done very well, which is create a lane for his comedy that makes him sort of too dangerous for the mainstream. And now, next thing you know, he's laughing in Trump's face as Trump grants him an interview and says to Andrew Schultz's face, I'm basically a truthful person. And Andrew Schultz is just laughing at him. Mark Maron, who is one of the wise old voices in comedy and does a really good job of pointing out where anti-Semitism exists, writes on Twitter something that you have not seen a lot of comedians brave enough to do because this is a powerful group of comedians and they don't tend to attack in-house. He writes, the anti-woke flank of the new fascism is being driven almost exclusively by comics, my peers. Whether or not they are self-serving or true believers in the new fascism is unimportant. They are of the movement. Whether they see themselves as acolytes or just comics doesn't matter. Whether they're driven by the idea that what they are fighting for is a free speech issue or whether they are truly morally bankrupt racists doesn't matter. They are part of the public face of a fascist political movement that seeks to destroy the democratic democratic idea. When comedians with podcasts have shameless, self-proclaimed white supremacists and fascists on their show to joke around like they're just entertainers or even just politicians, all it does is humanize and normalize fascism. When someone uses their platform for that reason, they are facilitating anti-American sentiment and promoting violent autocracy. Very few comedians are willing to do this in-house because of the fear that they have of other comedians. This is one of the few who has the kinds of credentials that nobody's going to really go after his intellect. It is a bit dangerous to war with Mark Maron because he has his own power and he's the OG. He was doing that stuff that they're doing now before all of them were doing it.
He's the cagey vet?
Yeah, I mean, he started doing a podcast in his garage. It blew up. It had an IFC spinoff, right, which was kind of borrowing from the podcast and then scripted. Additionally, Mark Maron's bang on there. It's been my whole apprehension with this whole recent thing of even our show has been very culpable in it, putting these comedians on pedestals. If Mussolini were around today, he'd go on a podcast hosted by a fledgling comedian, and that comedian would then go from clubs to theaters. That's the grift. And playing to the right has opened up a whole new customer base. In fact, you invoke Schultz. Do you remember what Schultz was doing observationally at the start of COVID?
I remember that he had a stand-up special that other stand-ups didn't think was a special because it was very well written, but he was doing it off of a prompter, and it was like minutes at a time on Netflix.
To me, I was introduced to him with those IG videos when everybody was looking for content, when everybody was looking for a voice. He was kind of an equal opportunist, but really more observational humor. And then once, lockdown stopped and he started playing shows, he just veered more and more right. Even you, as you mentioned, well, he laughed in Trump's face. He loves that because the left has kind of seized on that. If you've seen his promos since, he's still playing to that new base that he's created. A lot of these, and I happen to think he's talented, but a lot of the comedians that have ascended during this time playing to this new right-wing audience, they're not the most talented people in the bunch. A lot of them have failed. Now, that's the story of stand-up comedy. Sometimes it takes 20 years for guys to break. Mark Maron was a guy that broke because of a podcast, and it wasn't because he played to a right-leaning base. But I do think that we need to be discerning here. They're looking to cultivate an audience and go from clubs to theaters to arenas. And it's all been fast-tracked.
They're all doing that, though. They have gotten to the arenas. They're long past clubs. Like this group of people, Joe Rogan has a power base in Austin, and I'm not kidding you when I say he is the new knighter of comedians. Other comedians look at the ones that he has knighted and are afraid to say what Cat Williams says, which is some form of those guys aren't as funny as the guys that I respect as funny, but they are the ones profiting now. And one of them is Hinchcliffe, who I don't know if you guys saw the reporting on this, but he actually took out, he was going to call Kamala Harris, see you next Tuesday. Like it was taken out of he had workshopped some of the stuff in a New York comedy club, and that was too over the line. And I think he complied on some stuff during the Tom Brady roast, which is a venue more appropriate for some of the stuff that he was trying. But in this case, he was edited. I can't even imagine what would have happened there if he hadn't edited that one and he had just thrown that in the middle of a rally that RFK is backing away from, saying, look, that was unfortunate that we did that kind of racism to Puerto Rico and Hispanics.
It's been an effective strategic marketing ploy by going to taste-making podcast and normalizing the conversation and, let me crack open a seltzer with the Nelk Boys. And it's just all part of their very effective strategy. How can it be fascism if we're all laughing along? This guy seems pretty cool. How can he be a fascist? He's just a stand-up comedian. How can he be allowing this? But if you put Stalin in a uniform in that day, if there were podcasts around, he'd be doing the same approach. And it's a strategy, by the way, that we're complicit to on the left side. The left side, they'll go and call her daddy. This is how you speak to specific bases. But there is something really effective about right-leaning truth tellers, independent thinkers on the right side in terms of normalizing that conversation. And Mark Maron totally nailed it on the head with.
I saw Jon Stewart had a conversation that he was having recently about when he realized that one of his shows was going to die at, I don't remember where it was. It was the early incarnation of one of his shows, and one of the first skits had Dave Attell come out as Hitler, holding a bagel and coming out to just do the talk show circuit. There's a skit here of Stalin or Mussolini just going on a podcast and like surrounded by commercial reads because of how we're normalizing some of this stuff.
Can you explain, though, like what you mean by Kamala Harris going on Call Her Daddy to talk about women's reproductive rights is similar to any of the stuff that we're talking about?
Irrefutably, the strategy is the same. Let me go on a podcast and speak to a specific base, and that gives me direct access to an audience. You can certainly disagree with the message. I don't think the messages are anything similar. But no, the strategy in this whole new media world is where they would go on the evening news. And it's not to say that they're not still doing that. They're really focusing their energy on podcasts. And I would say the left is probably a little late to the party.
She's also going on 60 Minutes, though, and doing like mainstream media interviews.
Yeah, which I said. I don't understand why we're seizing on this. Like, yes, this is a campaign strategy of the 21st century. But what I'm saying is the conservatives saw this first, and they cornered the market on it, and they have the bigger podcast.
Stugotz here. Having a quality home security system in your home is so important. You want to have peace of mind when you're away, and of course you want to protect your family and your valuables. That's why I've had Simply Safe in my home for 7 years now. I swear by him. I want you to have the same peace of mind I and so many listeners experience every day, which is why I partnered with Simply Safe to offer Le Batard Show listeners 50% off a new system. Visit simplysafe.com/DLB. Old school security systems only act once someone is already inside your home. Simply Safe is changing that with its new Active Guard outside protection, which prevents crime before it happens. With Active Guard, live monitoring agents keep watch outside your home. If anyone is loitering or behaving suspiciously, the live guards can see them, speak to them, activate loud sirens and spotlights to scare them off, and even request urgent police dispatch, all before they even have the chance to kick in a door or window. Right now, all Le Batard listeners will get 50% off any new Simply Safe system. Visit simplysafe.com/DLB to claim this offer. It's only for a limited time, so be sure to order today. That's simplysafe.com/DLB. There's no safe like Simply Safe.